Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. It's another weekend without Chelsea playing, which I guess means we can be happy that it's a new weekend that goes by where we don't lose a game of football. But Arsenal are up next, so we can get ourselves ready, get ourselves prepared, enjoy Crystal Palace versus West Ham, which at half-time, time of me recording this video, is 3-2 to Palace. What an incredible game of football that is. 5 goals, if only we could dream of scoring 5 goals. Today, we're going to talk new shirt sponsors. We're going to talk the very close, very close arrival of Mauricio Pochettino and what that could mean for Harry Kane. And we're also going to talk about some anonymous voices coming out of Stamford Bridge talking about player unrest. And I think first thing we need to remember when it comes to player unrest, not a single footballer out there at any point is going to want to go through the gap between the results that Chelsea have been having and knowing where they're supposed to be. Now, The Athletic have tweeted this: too much change on and off the pitch, some regret signing long-term deals, unsettled by changes to staff, some face salary drops with no Champions League football, which I actually think is a good thing, others do not. A piece on the mood among Chelsea players. If you're not subscribed to The Athletic, I firmly recommend that you do. Very cheap, brilliant source of information regarding football from some of the best of the world's journalists. So, this is not a surprise. We're going to talk first of all about these long contracts, because when a player signs an 8-year deal, 9-year deal, they sign that because what they bought into was something, as well as the money, that makes them want to put their signature on the dotted line and commit to a project. At the same time, footballers nowadays, the way that finances work in football, they know that even if you sign a 9-year deal, it probably doesn't mean you're going to be at that club for 9 years. What that creates for Chelsea is it's the opposite of the situation we're in now, where we're dealing with multiple players whose contracts are about to expire. This won't happen with your likes of Enzo, Mudryk, Badiashile. So when it comes to potentially selling these players, Chelsea aren't left in the predicament that we're in now with the likes of Kovacic, Mount, where will they sign a new deal? Yes or no? Okay, fine. We've got to sell them 100% regardless, because the value with a year left on the contract is lower than potentially the transfer market value of the player. So it's good in that sense, but at the same time, if players within a few months of signing for Chelsea are thinking, what on earth have I done with my career by signing on the dotted line to a 7, 8, 9-year deal, this is worrying. The good news is we can't do this anymore. They're changing the rules of player duration, length of contracts, amortization. Chelsea managed to get in a load of signings before the rule changes. And I think the fact that Chelsea did this with so many players as such a big club in such a public eye, it's basically meant that those rule changes came in as a result of what Chelsea were doing. It's smart on the surface from a business side of things for all the reasons I just said. But when it comes to those individual players, when we look at the Athletic article, because there's been so much change going on both on the pitch in terms of different starting 11s every week, because you could argue players haven't been clicking, managers have been shifting things up. But at the same time, when you've got a massive squad, there's also a pressure on those managers from the players that want to be playing football, whether because they care about Chelsea or they want to play themselves into the shop window for a next big move, for the next big sign-on bonus. Either way, footballers still want to be playing. There's very few, maybe your Danny Drinkwaters, that are happy to just take 100 grand a week and play with the kids. That isn't what these Chelsea players want to do. Now, with all of the commotion we've heard about players having to change in the flipping corridors because there's no space in the dressing room, this all makes sense. All of the craziness that I get to discuss, you guys get to comment in the comment section down below. Chelsea, whether it's been for good or bad, have been the talk of the town all season long. And this is something that when you sign for a club like Chelsea, you know, because of the stature, because of the history, because of everything else, you know that you're going to be in the public eye at the forefront of everything, because Chelsea are a big club. Whether we're 11th in the league, 12th or 13th in the league potentially by the end of today, Chelsea are a big club, and we will continue to be a big club. You don't spend 600 million if you're not a big club. Whether we've done it right, totally different story. But I think the pressure of all of this, with different managers coming in, some players will have loved working under Tuchel, some won't. Some might have really loved working under Graham Potter, some wouldn't have. Now with Frank Lampard, because he was the manager only just before Tuchel, and there's still some players there who maybe are like, what are we doing here? And I think it's got to a point where, as fans and non-Chelsea fans can say, what an embarrassment, what a joke. As fans, we can all be like, this is chaos. And as much as it might be entertaining for those that don't follow Chelsea, even I'm over it at this point. All of the chopping and changing, as much as I call for it, because I want what's best for Chelsea Football Club, overall, I can't keep up with where we're heading from one day to the next day. Not even one to the next, from the morning until the afternoon. Things are chopping and changing at Chelsea so often, and it leads us into talk about the physio, Jose Calvaro, who was fired towards the beginning of the season, or was cut off from his job, and the Chelsea players have ended up pleading with the club, with the owners, to bring Jose back. Now, first of all, this tells us a lot about the ownership. They made mistakes. They chopped and changed things far too early because they wanted to do things their way. They wanted their imprint on Chelsea Football Club, the stamp, the Bowley, Eghbali stamp. They wanted that there. So they got rid of certain staff, changed things, brought new people in. But to remove people and then look at Chelsea's injury list this season, players want the physios back, not just because they feel as though they're being overworked. None of the Chelsea players can say that the 90 minutes of football they've been playing week after week this season has drained them physically. But what Chelsea need, when all of the commotion at the top end is firing managers, new coaches to work with every single flipping week, stuff like the physio, this is the kind of meat and potatoes where we don't get to see the work of Jose Calvaro. He could be a brilliant physio, he could be a bad one. I have no idea. I've never seen him giving a hamstring massage. I don't know. But because the players are dealing with so much from the top end, stuff like this, where members of staff who they have to see at Cobham every single day, this can bring some element of normality in a time of chaos. And the fact that the players have had to plea to bring Jose Calvaro back, to me is absolutely crazy. On the face of it, for the owners to go back and rehire someone that they fired, probably not because he was bad at his job, but because they wanted to do things their way. It's a bitter pill to swallow when they realise they've got it all wrong, and the players know it as well. If the players want a certain physio back at the club, this is the root of all of the issues here. All of the little things that go on that don't necessarily, we don't get to see it with performances. We don't get to see it with results. These are the reasons why, on a day-to-day basis, these Chelsea players are over it. They're tired, they're confused. The chaos has overwhelmed to the point where I feel as though everything that's been going on in a negative light at the club this season has suffocated us at this point of the season. We can't get new manager bounces anymore. Not necessarily because Frank's a bad manager, we've talked about that enough, but because the players just cannot focus on what needs to be done. 4 different managers in one season, and we wonder why there's no identity. We wonder why there's no style of play. There's no improvement in areas that we're struggling in. Because on a day-to-day basis, the players have got to get used to this, got to get used to that, got to get used to this. Chop, 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 chop. It's absolute madness. So, on the horizon, there is supposedly a meeting happening in LA, Los Angeles, today, between all the members of the Chelsea board to make the final decision on whether or not Pochettino will become the manager. I think at this point, Poch has probably agreed terms. I think the project is exciting for him. And I've got to a point where the more I've researched Pochettino, the more I've listened about him, listened to him, read about him, the more I think, you know what, this could actually work. It could be a match where right now, Chelsea's positioning, Pochettino's positioning in his career, this could actually be a very good match for Chelsea Football Club. And there is talks that Chelsea are genuinely trying to table an offer for Harry Kane. I've been kind of diplomatic in this video, discussing more of the root cause of some of the disgruntlement at the club. So I don't want to get carried away here and tell you guys, I think Harry Kane's going to sign for Chelsea. But I will say this, the relationship between Pochettino and Harry Kane and the position that Spurs are in right now, they might not get top four. So Harry Kane is not going to stay there. Manchester United is an option, but the Pochettino effect, to reunite those two players, Poch and Harry Kane. Harry Kane is an absolutely sensational footballer. Probably doesn't get the credit. This has been a lot in the press this week. And I agree, doesn't get the credit that he probably deserves. I'm not going to sit here praising a Tottenham player forever, but as a fan of England, all right, he missed a penalty, whatever. He blazed it over the crossbar, but when Harry Kane plays for England, I can see the quality. The way that he can find a pass, drop deep, involve players. I think Harry Kane would be perfect at Chelsea Football Club with someone like Christopher Nkunku, even Mudryk to an extent. You've seen what Harry Kane does with Heung-min Son. I don't think it would be impossible to quickly recreate that at Chelsea. And how desperate are we for a proven goal scorer? The man can score 20 goals a season with his eyes closed in English football. To me, if we can persuade Daniel Levy to sell, I know he's only got 1 year left on his deal and it could probably still cost 100 million quid, which is absolutely nuts for a player with a year left, considering we're talking about Mount could be off for 50 million. Kovacic could be on the way to Bayern Munich. That's the next story I want to discuss, because the rumours there are that Thomas Tuchel wants both Mason Mount and Mateo Kovacic, but there is also whispers that Leroy Sané could be offered as a make-weight in a deal to bring Kovacic to Bayern. Now, it's a weird one because if you're watching the Rebuilding Chelsea video, there are so many wingers at this club, so much dead wood in the wide positions, and quite frankly, we've been so feeble from wide areas this season, apart from times with Ben Chilwell and Reece James at the back. That's how bad it's got for Chelsea. Leroy Sané is a player who I think is possibly underrated in football. He gets a lot of talk because of the speed, he can shoot with both feet, and he is inconsistent. He's not been consistently brilliant at both Man City and Bayern Munich. But if we are going to get rid of that deadwood, I still think there is a world this summer where if certain Chelsea players want to leave, which we've understood from this video so far, players are unhappy, not just the ones who have only got a year left on their contract. Many players want out of the door this summer. So it could be a position where if we do sell 3, maybe 4 wingers, Chelsea could do with a Leroy Sané. See where I'm going with this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. There's also been rough rumours about Sadio Mane as well, but nothing really major, so I won't go into that one in too much detail. But you can also see from the thumbnail of this video, Harry Kane with an Allianz logo on the front of the shirt. What do you guys think about this, by the way? Let me know in the comments down below. I think when it comes to sponsors, the majority of us just think about aesthetics. We think, does it look good? Does it bring us back to the days where we had Fly Emirates or Samsung on the front of our shirts, which I think probably go down as 2 of Chelsea's better sponsors. Allianz, even if Chelsea don't get Champions League football, and obviously less eyes being on the club per season as a result of no European football, Chelsea is still such a massive potential for a big brand. So the 40 million a year that we reportedly get from 3, Allianz would absolutely be able to match this, if not more. And aesthetically, it looks very, very good indeed. I think some of these Chelsea mock-ups that we've seen with the Allianz shirt, the logo on the front, looks very, very nice. So I guess you could say there's an element of positivity here to end this video. Let me know your thoughts on the shirt. Let me know if you think it's too mad to believe that Harry Kane might join Pochettino at Chelsea, and stay tuned to the channel because we've got 2 episodes to go in Rebuilding Chelsea. We're going to talk about the signings, definitives, who do I want to come to the club this summer, and then we finish it with my Chelsea squad for the 23-24 season. I'm not going to lie, having finished everything, I've not recorded the episode yet, I'm going to be doing it after this. I think I've actually come up with something that you guys might agree with, which is a weird one on social media and YouTube, but we'll wait and see. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe to GBFC, so that you don't miss anything. Come on, you Blues.